Okay, I'm not sure that some of you have heard of this particular tool before, but I think it is one of the most underrated Google Workspace tools that exists. Hi, my name's Tristan Heron. I'm an education, innovation, and growth specialist, and I'm here to help you embrace technology and develop future-focused classrooms, not only for yourself, but also to make sure that our young people have the skills that they need to be successful in their futures. All right, so today I'm here to talk to you about a tool in Google Workspace that you may or may not have heard of. And I think it is a pretty underrated tool that could actually be so good for you and your students. And that tool is Google Sites. If you haven't heard of Google Sites is the really simple drag and drop website builder that you can access as part of Google Workspace. So basically, you can create your own websites. How simple is that? Website creation can be quite complicated, trust me. All right, I manage and I have created my own website. And yes, it's drag and drop and there's all these different kind of things to make it really simple and accessible, but it also can be quite challenging. But Google Sites is a really great way to get started with web design, especially if this is something that you'd like to incorporate into your classroom and something that you might like to get your students to work on. So maybe you want to get your students to create like a portfolio or some kind of website to show their learning. Google Sites is something that you could use. So let's have a think about some of the different things and some of the different reasons and ways we could use Google Sites. So Google Sites could be used for a resource hub where you might have some kind of central location where you pop up your lessons, where you pop up your resources, where you pop up videos and all different kinds of things for your students to access. Could you also use Google Classroom? Absolutely. But maybe you're not allowed to use Google Classroom. Maybe Google Classroom has been unsuccessful in the past. Why not give Google Sites a go? Because it might be just what you need. So you might create a Google Sites resource hub. Google Sites is also really good if you're holding some kind of event. I know that in one of my previous schools, I coordinated a regional study day for the HSC English. And I used Google Sites to create the actual site where students and teachers were able to look at the program, they were able to have a look at the presenters, they were able to find out more about the structure of the day. And obviously, because I was using Google Sites, it didn't cost me a single cent, which is fantastic. All right, another way that you could use Google Sites. So something that I showed, I think it was last year, as part of an Innovative EdTech episode, was that I looked at how we could create a Google site as a choice board. So if you use choice boards in your classroom, you might use them through Google Slides, it might be through Canva, it might be through PowerPoint, it might be just plain Jane through Word, okay? Have you ever thought about creating some kind of digital choice board using Google Sites? It can be done, trust me, all right? So there's so many things you can do with Google Sites that, again, it's only limited by your imagination. Another really great way that you could use Google Sites is to create a portfolio. So maybe you're getting your students to create some kind of portfolio over the school year, over the term, throughout a unit, maybe you're doing some writing, okay? You can get your students to create their own Google Sites website, and that's where they create and upload. And this is where they can input their own design. They can have their own structure. They can work out what is going to be best to represent their particular learning and their ideas. So their own personal portfolio, how cool is that? Okay. Another really great way to use Google Sites is for some kind of resource hub that you might have with your team. So this is where you might include websites, documents, policies, handbooks, all these different things that your team is accessing regularly. You might add these to a Google Sites resource team hub where everybody has access to this. So again, it's only limited by your imagination. There's so many things that you could do with Google Sites, okay? And again, I think it's a really valuable tool to go out there and just spend a little bit of time, maybe over Christmas or in the holidays, whenever you have a chance, to just play around with Google Sites. Because once you stop, you just won't be able, once you stop, gosh, Tristan, you're a dingbat. Once you start, you just won't be able to stop. Trust me, it is a really valuable tool. You know, very early on in my days as Evolve EdTech, our website actually was a Google Sites created website. We didn't have the money, we didn't have the resources, the opportunities to create a website with the company that we use now. So we used Google Sites. So I'm not just here rambling on and telling you about this tool. I've used it, I've tried it, I've played around with it, and I think it is definitely one that you should investigate, and you should see how you could use it in the classroom, either for yourself, with your team, with your school, or even getting your students to use it. So powerful, so simple, and doing something a little bit different, also developing a whole heap of digital skills, but also making sure that all of these things that we're doing in the classroom have some kind of purpose, they're meaningful, and they're relevant. So Google Sites, it's a pretty cool tool. Go and check it out. Again, you're only limited by your imagination. If you can think it, you can probably create it using Google Sites. If you want to know a little bit more about Google Sites, we do have an Innovative EdTech episode where we talked all about using Google Sites to create a resource hub. So if you want to check out that episode of Innovative EdTech, then I highly encourage you to head over to YouTube and subscribe to the Tristan Heron YouTube channel. All right, so head over to YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I've gone echoey now because I've gone under a tunnel. Subscribe to our channel. We'd love to get to 1,000 subscribers. That would be amazing. And you can definitely help us out with that. Make sure you share it with your friends, your colleagues, everybody else, so that we can get out there and we can support each other with technology in the classroom. So we would love it to see you there. We'd love to get to 1,000 subscribers. And when we do, I will do a little happy dance. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Go and check out Google Sites. You'll love it. You'll find that you have probably been going, why haven't I used this sooner? Because it might actually revolutionize your world. All right, that's it for this little video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you are finding these useful, and we will catch up again very soon. Bye.